It does appear that the Florida Gators are finally going to address edge in the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Thursday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Also, tomorrow after the bowl game, we will be going live, as always, last time for the year. So just buckle up. It's going to be a good one. The college football playoff is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The college football playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. And this is something that I've been talking about for a little while now with the Florida Gators, where even before Jack Pyburn left, even before TJ Searcy left, I thought the Florida Gators needed to look at edge rushers in the portal. I don't think that they've had much success rushing the passer off the edge. I know that everybody loves George Gumbs. I don't dislike him, but I don't know if I'd be comfortable going, yep, that's the guy, and I'm totally fine with that. So I'm a little skeptical there. But it does appear that the Florida Gators are looking into the transfer portal to look at edge rushers. And specifically, they look like they're looking at the leaner, speedier edge rushers in the portal. I'm assuming so that they have passing down specialists there, what they plan on doing on rundowns without Jack Pyburn or TJ Searcy, who were both very good run defenders and not great pass rushers. No clue what their plan is there, but that's what we're looking at right now. The first one is Kofi Asare, is 6'5". His weight's a little weird. It depends on where you look. He's between 235 pounds and 250 pounds. I think the 250 is closer to accurate, we'll say. He's probably in the 245 range. But depending on where you look, that's his listed weight. So that's why I say it's a little weird there. But edge rusher out of UMass, which say what you want about UMass. Blue Orange Gator, if you are familiar with Blue Orange Gator on Twitter, had a funny little quip yesterday that Kofi Asare had more SEC sacks than Jack Pyburn, and Kofi Asare played in the FBS Independence. But they did play, I believe it was 3 SEC teams this year. So there we go. But had 17 pressures and 3 sacks in 2024. At the time of recording this on late Wednesday night, the two sides are trying to set up an official visit for after the bowl game. And I do think that they'll get that set up eventually. Probably going to be, if I'd have to guess, Sunday would probably be the most likely time that they'd be able to set that up. So Sunday the 22nd, and try to get Kofi Asare set up by there. I also apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. I looked up the pronunciation of Asare, and that is how it showed up. So that's what I'm rolling with. But he also has offers right now from Iowa State, Mississippi State, Michigan State, Washington State, Georgia State, the Secretary of State, all the states, Virginia, and South Florida. Obviously, you look at some of those teams, you say, all right, well, I know for some reason Florida Gators fans, when Chase Sowell went to Iowa State, we're like, oh, it's Iowa State. They're nothing. They were 1 game away from the college football playoff this year, which is more than we could say about the Florida Gators. And so they are near the top of the Big 12, which obviously not the SEC, but near the top of the Big 12. There's Mississippi State, which is at the very bottom of the SEC. So there's that. Michigan State, near the bottom of the Big 10. Washington State, in the Pac-2. And then Georgia State, Group of 5. Virginia, ACC, and South Florida, Group of 5. So not exactly a blue chip offer list right now, but I will say this as well. Neither did George Gumbs have a great offer list, right? I will say that only so that I can say, yes, George Gumbs did not have a great offer list. George Gumbs was in year 2 of playing defensive end or any edge rusher position and is an outlier. And we never, ever want to bank on outliers. So that's how we look at this of, yes, Kofi Asare, all right production, right? And if you're new here, we have kind of two, we'll say, measures to say if someone's productive or not, or if someone's a good transfer portal addition or not. One, proven production, 17 pressures, 3 sacks. To me, I don't view that as proven production, so I don't want to say that is an answer there. Or they just finished their first year of college, and we look at them as an extension of the high school recruiting class, in which case, also no. Kofi Asare was not in his first year. So, and I don't mean this to bash anything that they're doing. I know that they get paid way more money than I do to evaluate players. And I know that there's going to be people in the comments like, if you don't like them, I don't care. I'm going to give my opinion on players. And when I look at Kofi Asare, I think he's fairly raw as an edge rusher. And I don't care for that right now. I'm going to be completely honest with you. We're looking at a guy that has played multiple years in college football. Watching the very little UMass film I was able to find, wasn't a huge fan of his pass rush repertoire. Didn't think it was very refined there. And not that he can't get refined there. We'll see whatever coaching staff changes happen if edge will be affected by that, which I do think it will be. We'll see about the development there, but just plain and simple, he's too much of a project right now for me to say I love the addition. Because, yeah, we have the proven production guardrail. We have the 1 year in college guardrail. Doesn't fit either of those. I don't like to like kill a person for that. I'm not saying that. However, then we look at the outlier stuff. Okay, well, how does the film look? Film looks all right? Looks decently athletic. Doesn't get his pad, doesn't play with good pad level, we'll say. Doesn't get low enough. Like, he's not bendy around the edge. I don't think that his pass rush moves were anything special. And so for me, I look at it and I say, all right, I don't know, like maybe they know something more than I do, which they usually do, again. Or maybe they're looking purely for depth guy that they can put in on pass rush downs and that they think will translate, that they think they can fix whatever flaw he has in his game right now. I'm just trying to piece it together. I don't think it's a great addition. It's not a knock on him. It's just right now, don't think it's a great addition. But hey, was skeptical of George Gumbs too. So if Kofi Asare does visit campus and does commit to the Florida Gators, I'm open-minded, right? I'm just saying right now, on paper and on film, I don't think it's an awesome addition. There is a player that Florida offered yesterday as well that I am more optimistic for, or more optimistic about. We'll talk about him next on Locked On Gators. It's that time of the year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all of the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, leading into our first big matchup, SMU Mustangs versus Penn State Nittany Lions. I think Penn State wins that one. Then the Clemson Tigers look to and will fail to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, TrueTV, TBS, and Max. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free breakfast in the podcast and on YouTube. And the Florida Gators also offered someone yesterday, or at least that's when they tweeted it, that Nate Johnson, edge rusher out of App State, 6'5", 240 pounds. And he's a way more interesting one to me. Film looks better, in my opinion. I think he's got just better pass rush plans overall. But his production's the also interesting thing that we've talked about before, again, where productive in 2023, not productive in 2024. And that's what throws it off for me, right? Like, and before I even give you those numbers, I will say he played way fewer passing downs in 2024 than he did in 2023. So that would explain at least some of the drop off, right? However, he was also worse on a per pass rush basis in 2024 than in 2023. Like, it's not like if you take his pressures per snap and then given the same number of downs as he had in 2024, or as he had in 2023 that he had in 2024, you don't get the same number, right? It's still a worse number. So it's not as simple as, oh, less pass rush opportunities. Maybe it's about having less obvious passing down situations. App State 2023, pretty good team. 2024, wasn't as impressed with them, but maybe it's that. However, also significantly better versus the run. So maybe it was that, in 2023, he was like, hey, I'm just going to pin my ears back and run every single time I'm chasing the QB. Maybe it was that. Maybe in 2024, he's like, hey, I'm going to react more often. I'm torn on it. His numbers in 2023, he had 37 pressures and 6 sacks. 37 pressures would have been first on the team for the Florida Gators, regardless of position. 2024, 9 pressures. It was also 2023. He was a relative unknown. He wasn't thought of as the guy. He was a freshman in 2023. And then 2024, offense is probably game planned for him more often, right? I wish we had double team numbers for college football. That would be greatly appreciated. But looking at Nate Johnson, 2023, 37 pressures, 6 sacks as a freshman, pretty impressive. 9 pressures, 4 sacks in 2024, very unimpressive. So I'm torn there. He doesn't fit the proven production last year, but he has it a year prior. And so that's where I get torn on just this evaluation. And his offer list compared to Kofi Asare, Nate Johnson's offer list right now is way more power 4 heavy than Kofi Asare's. And so again, this is where we talk about when we talk about a lot of 3 stars in high school recruiting, we go, oh, look at the offer list. And it's a bunch of SEC teams. We say, hey, that's not a 3-star player, right? Like that's a kid that should be a 4-star player, or that's a kid that is a good 3-star. And I want to take the similar approach, although it is a bit different with the transfer portal. So it's not as open-ended there. But Nate Johnson, offer list, Florida State, which yuck, but like still power 4. Florida State, USC, who when Nate Johnson hit the portal, the initial expectation was USC. A lot of people thought that he would hit the portal and then right to USC. That didn't happen. And so this feels like one of those things where the longer it takes to happen, the less likely it feels like it is. So Florida State, USC, Missouri, good SEC team, Virginia Tech, very good ACC pass rushing unit, we'll say. Wisconsin, I don't care what people say. I think Wisconsin had a pretty decent defense. Something about Wisconsin, I feel like they've usually got good defense. NC State, pretty consistent, proven track record of having good defensive linemen at NC State, edge rushers included. And Virginia as well, so another ACC team. But looking at Nate Johnson's offer list, it's way more power 4 heavy. And again, you can't put everything on it, but just simply looking at, you have at least a year of genuinely productive football under his belt there compared to Kofi Asare, who does not. And also, I know that I keep comparing them. I'm not trying to argue who's better, who's whatever. I'm just comparing production-wise simply. And Kofi Asare, through his college career so far at UMass, has 2 years played, 18 pressures, didn't play in 2023, basically. And then you look at Nate Johnson with App State, and Nate Johnson had that production doubled up in 2023 alone, and then 2024. So when just comparing the two, and also Nate Johnson finished 2024 on a pretty hot spell there. So just comparing the two production-wise, comparing the two offer lists, it feels like Nate Johnson should be the better addition, right? And also, like I said, Nate Johnson, pretty strong year in terms of run defense. Like, I don't think that either one of these are needle movers for me. I'm going to be honest. Because that's what I'm looking for, right? Like, I'm not looking for depth edge rushers. I'm not looking like I understand situational edge rushers. And here's the thing also, like I mentioned last segment, people are going to complain about my evaluation of players. That's fine. This show, like, we're going to tell you the news, but we're also going to give opinions, and I will give you opinions on what I think Florida should be prioritizing in the portal and what I would be looking for in the portal. And that's not always aligned with the coaching staff, right? And so while I may say, hey, not super impressed with this film, not super this, not super that, they get paid way more than I do, right? I'll be right sometimes when they're wrong, and they'll be right when I'm wrong. That's how things are going to work. But for me, I'm looking for needle movers. I don't think Kofi Asare is a needle mover. I don't think Nate Johnson's a needle mover. I think Nate Johnson has more needle mover potential than Kofi Asare. And so for me, Nate Johnson would be a better addition than Kofi Asare. But we'll see about that. All we know for Nate is that they've offered. We don't know about a visit being set up, although, again, I would imagine most of the guys that you give offers, you would try to schedule a visit with. We'll talk about one more guy that doesn't have an offer yet, at least, next on Locked On Gators. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. So if you want to bet, I don't know, Elijah Badger more than 51.5 receiving yards and Montreal Johnson more than 57.5 rushing yards, I'm just throwing those numbers out there. You can do that on PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't need to win. Just play it and you get your money. PrizePicks, run your game. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And there's one more player that we're going to talk about today that I think the Florida Gators should pursue. And this is something that we do a lot, players that I think they should go after. Patrick Payton is one of those players. And you may remember that name because Florida has played him multiple times at this point. He was an edge rusher for Florida State. 2022 ACC Defensive Player of the Year. 6'5", 250, another player who his production fell off in 2024 compared to 2023, even on a per snap basis. And I do feel like there's an easier explanation for Patrick Payton, which is, by the way, one of the reasons that I feel more comfortable saying, hey, you should probably go get him, is that I feel like there's an easier explanation to these things. Also, we've got multiple years of production at the power 4 level for Patrick Payton. And I feel like that matters as well, right? Like Patrick Payton in 2023, we'll go back to 2022. In 2022, Patrick Payton had 20 pressures and 3 sacks. Okay. 2023, Patrick Payton had 44 pressures and 7 sacks. 2024, 26 pressures, 4 sacks. Obviously, that number dropped significantly. And again, I feel like there's a way easier explanation for this than there is for Nate Johnson or for Kofi Asare, who, again, I mean, no production drop off, but not great there. But for me, I look at it and I say, okay, well, it's probably got to do with surrounding cast for the most part, because Patrick Payton had 26 pressures. First place on Florida State was 29, Darrell Jackson Jr., and then second place was Patrick Payton with 26 pressures. But you go back to 2023, and first place on the team Jared Verse with 62 pressures. Patrick Payton, 44 pressures. For me, that's the huge difference of depending on how you value or where you rank Jared Verse on the edge and Braden Fisk on the interior, you look at it completely differently because 2023, Patrick Payton could have been the second or third option. Again, depending on where you rank Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, and Patrick Payton, which is how I would put those in order. Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, by the way, both very successful NFL players. Both guys that I spent a lot of time talking about when they hit the transfer portal. Jared Verse from Albany, Braden Fisk from Western Michigan. Both guys that I spent a lot of time saying, hey, Florida, you should go get them. Jared Verse, first-round pick. Braden Fisk, second-round pick. Both of them productive as hell. But that's neither here nor there. Patrick Payton was rushing as the third option behind those two. Okay? Now he's the guy. Yeah, he didn't have the most pressures on the team. That's not to say he's worse, right? Offenses are looking at him. Offenses are game planning for Patrick Payton. They were this year, right? Like he was the focus. He was the focus. In 2023, he was able to not be the guy. 2024, kind of the only guy on the edge that was really impressive film. Right? Also, 2024, way less opportunities. Again, not as productive on a per snap basis, so that's not the excuse. I will also say, in 2023, there were a lot of times where Florida State got to go, well, we're winning handedly. And so we are going to, we know that we're rushing the passer. They have to throw the ball. We know we're rushing the passer. We're winning handedly. Let's go pin our ears back and get after them. And for an edge rusher, that helps you a lot. For a defensive lineman, that helps you a lot. Also, to know what the opposing team is going to do helps you a lot because you can kind of expect things from the offensive lineman. Like you kind of know what you're going to be facing. If you know, hey, they're up with a minute left, they're going to be running this football. You know what to expect. If they're going to be dropping back, you know what to expect. So there's a difference there. And again, Florida State in 2023 was leading way more than in 2024. With Patrick Payton, we know he wants money. That's why he initially threatened to enter the portal in 2020 after the 2023 season. So we know he wants money, and we know how that goes for Florida trying to get players from Florida State, Miami, bidding wars, Ole Miss, LSU, all that fun stuff. Patrick Payton has way less ground to stand on to demand that, though, right now than he had in 2023. I would at least kick the tires, see if he's reasonably in the budget. I still think he's a pretty good pass rusher. I think that you pair him with what should be a pretty good Florida Gators defensive line, and you get closer to 2023 production from Patrick Payton than you got in 2024. That's how I look at it, at least. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow twice. Normal show in the morning, post-game show right after the Florida Gators hopefully beat Tulane. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.